Okay, so we're doing a little training video. This video is aimed for people who knows a little bit about provolone probiotics, and maybe they've been sent here to learn some more. Maybe this is the start of the journey, or maybe they're already experts. So we're going to cover um, a wide umbrella view, an overview. We're not going to get specific on products. We're going to have that in videos 2, 3, and 4, and so on. Each one of those will be specifically for a different product. So this is an overview, and we're just going to go through a few topics over the next maybe 10 or so minutes. Um, what is the microbiome and why is it important? Some of you looking at this will already be very, very familiar. Some won't be familiar at all. So it's just a brief overview to get everybody on the same page. What happens when that microbiome is disrupted? What are topical probiotics and how do they work? What is bioreplacement? What are the issues around the common chemical stroke antiseptic cleansing products, or anti-life cleaning chemicals as we call them sometimes? Then we're going to talk about pet health and human health and the growing environmental damage from chemical cleansing products. Antimicrobial resistance is so important. It's a big issue. It's out there. We're going to talk about that, and then just a couple of things about the maybe a couple of case studies at the end, a bit about research, but we're not going to go into that too much. Like I say, that'll be for the next um, the next videos. So um, this one is a multiple application video. So we're talking about a wide range: pets, land and water, commercial cleaning, livestock, cleaning in the home, and so on. So bear that in mind if you're specifically a pet health professional or a cleaning contractor or a pet owner. Recognize that this is an overall training talking to multiple different sectors. Okay, so microbiome. Um, Not a particularly nice picture, but the point we're getting across in these couple of slides here is that everything, every single thing has a microbiome. Um, Animate, inanimate, anything you want to name. The screen that you're looking at this training video on, the chair you're sitting on, the inside of your own digestive tract, your hands, cup you're drinking from, just every single thing. Everything's got a microbiome, and it's not surprising when you realize that all life on the planet has evolved from bacteria. We live in trillions of bacteria, um, and some of those we'd be really in a bad place if we didn't have them. So the human body has got more bacteria and so on, more microbiome than it has cells of human, and you can apply that same uh, rationale to any any animal and so on. So more bacteria on us and in us um, than human cells, which is kind of crazy. And some of those bacteria are bad. Now, a lot of us have been brought up on the idea that we have to kill bacteria. Bacteria equals infection. Bacteria is a problem. So if you could use the word some in front of that and say, yeah, some bacteria is a problem. Some bacteria will cause you to have major health issues. But that's a really small amount. Um, Roughly speaking, a 1/100th of a percent, so 0.01% of the bacteria are actually pathogenic for humans and animals, or actually cause a problem. The vast majority don't cause a problem, and some of those actually confer a benefit. They do us a good job. That's why a lot of you will be familiar with taking probiotics in a drink form to help rebalance your own gut microbiome, especially after you've had a course of antibiotics. So an anti-life pharmaceutical that's going to do a job, and probably a very necessary job. Hopefully it was necessary. Hopefully you weren't giving them unnecessarily. We'll hear more about that in a minute. So we're balancing the microbiome, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. So just a little fun slide. It basically says the dogs are less clean than than cats, because cats clean themselves all the time. So cats win that one. Okay, so basically everything's covered in a microbiome. Um, and I'm going to flick through this, but we talk about being able to check this article I liked is about being able to check the pet's health through the microbiome. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what happens when that natural microbiome gets upset. What, because we do that a lot. You know, we wash, we clean, we spend our time trying to get rid of germs. We call them bacteria, and of course it's a war that we're just not going to win. You know, we're waging war against Mother Nature, and we are surrounded by bacteria. We're breathing in 1 million a day or whatever. They're just all around us. So what we do with probiotics is we take a bit of control of that. So the slide you're looking at the moment is one of my favorites, and it's very counterintuitive for people who've been involved in cleaning, especially, or cleansing, whether that's cleansing a wound or an infected ear or a kitchen table or a door handle, whatever. You use, most of the time you'll use anti-life chemicals, antibacterials, antiseptics, and that's what we've been taught. You know, we grew up that way as well. Some of my mums would put, you know, antiseptic, I won't name the brand, but into the bath, you know, and it would make the water go a bit milky white. We now know that those particular things are quite toxic to pets, for example. And in that case, we'd be trying to kill all the bacteria. So you kill all the bacteria off of 99.9%. And you've now got a surface, whether that's, again, a wound on an animal or your kitchen floor, but you've got a surface devoid of a natural microbiome. And as we all know, nature abhors a vacuum, so it will reapply itself. It will put a microbiome there, whether you want to or not. It's coming, and you won't have a choice of what's going to land there. Now, in most cases, it's okay. Most cases, you're cleaning, and what lands back onto the surfaces where you've taken all the competition away for the bad bacteria, a lot of times it's going to be fine. You're going to get away with it. But when you look closer, and this slide in particular is taken in a paramedical application, a dentist, I believe, and it's a bar graph, and the bottom one is from swabs taken during normal antibiotic or antibacterial cleaning. The smaller bar is swabs taken during COVID, where the cleaning regime had increased, so now they're doing more antibacterial cleaning because they're trying to do the right thing, and the intuitive thing is clean more. However, when you look at the graphs, you'll see that yes, you have a lot less bacteria than you had before, but remember, only 0.01% of bacteria is bad, and that pink graph, that pink bar, it's too small for you to see the writing, but that pink color represents streptococcus, which is one of the ones that we really don't want to have. So that's a bad one, right? So streptococcus, when we were younger, sometimes we talk about strep throat. You don't want streptococcus, it's going to cause infection. So here we are with this counterintuitive situation where the more you clean with anti-life products, whether they're natural antiseptics or whatever, the more you wipe out that microbiome, in some cases, the more of the bad bacteria you will end up with. And also we'll talk in a second about antimicrobial resistance, because quite often those pathogens are becoming a little bit clever, and they are becoming used to that anti-life cleaning product, and they're becoming resistant to it, and they're taking over they're basically like a gang taking over the street. Okay, so they're becoming in charge, they're the dominant presence. And of course, they're the ones that are multiplying more and more and more. So that's what happens when we basically mess with the microbiome, which is what most of us are brought up to do. And from an animal point of view, you'll see that there's other things that can happen. Issues with ears. We hear quite often of repeated ear infections and repeated antibiotic application, because into the ear then you're wiping out the microbiome with the antibiotic, and sometimes an antibiotic is absolutely needed, and thank God we have them. But we want to preserve their efficacy. We want to preserve their ability to heal and cure when we need them to heal and cure. So using them, if we can avoid using them, then that's going to be great. So dropping an atomic bomb onto the microbiome, either on the skin, if it's a skin issue, or into the ear, or again onto that kitchen floor, or onto your hands, whatever, can then lead to issues where now the microbiome is out of balance. Some of the bad guys are getting the upper hand, and little by little, as they reproduce more than the other guys, they get more and more of the upper hand. Okay, so what we're going to talk about with probiotics is actually taking control of that microbiome and creating the microbiome that we want to have. Okay, so probiotics, what are they? According to the World Health Organization, they're living microorganisms that exert a positive effect on health. So basically, bacteria and so on, enzymes you'll hear as well, that actually convey a health benefit to whoever's using them, the pet, the human, the environment, whatever we're doing. Okay, so microscopic cleaning agents, and because they're cleaning in a bacterial, in a bio manner, if you like, they don't need to be strong chemicals. So we're able to get away from harsh chemicals that are linked with so many issues. Okay, but also because they're alive, they keep working. So after application, they're going to keep working on the surface. I'm going to say 72 hours. It's about an average. It can be a little bit longer in some cases, and it does depend on food availability for the probiotics and temperature. But let's say 24 hours is a good safe bet. So when you shampoo that dog with a probiotic shampoo, the probiotics are staying on there. What are they doing? Well, they're eating organic waste and so on, and more about that in a second. Okay, so we're putting a microbiome in place rather than dropping creating a wasteland where we're not in control of what regrows on that surface that we've disinfected. And when you use harsh chemicals to do disinfections, or even not harsh chemicals, just anything to wipe out the microbiome, how long does that last? Well, the science says less than an hour. So for less than an hour, you could say, okay, we've disinfected the surface. After an hour, you can't say that, even if nobody has touched that surface, whatever that surface happens to be, because again, we're surrounded by bacteria, and it's just landing on that surface, and it's got no competition when it lands on there, and we're getting all kinds of things happening. Okay, so we'll take a different view. Now, a little bit about probiotics. So Provolone has spent years and millions in research to select the best probiotics, and actually we have a lot more coming on board. So these are bacteria that are known to be helpful to humans and animals and so on, the environment. In the bottle, they're in a spore form, so effectively they're dormant. They're asleep in the container, and it's not until you use them and bring them out into the atmosphere and give them food and oxygen that they go from a spore form, like a seed in the palm of your hand. You know it's not going to do anything, but then plant it in the ground, give it what it needs, and it turns into a vegetative state. It starts to grow and sprout and so on. Same with the probiotics. Spray them onto the surface, put them onto that dog skin or whatever, and now they've got food and they've got oxygen, and they wake up and they start their life cycle. Okay, so what are they doing when you apply them? Well, they're feeding on organic waste food. That's what bacteria do, and we just put lots of the good guys in there. So organic waste, and some of those are bioallergens like dust mite, poop, dead skin cells, in the case of a dog, dried saliva, just whatever organic waste happens to be in the area. So we talk about hard surfaces, and cleaning is obvious, but also we have sprays for soft furnishings, and they can be odor controlled because often it's the odor is coming from bad bacteria, and we're going to be out competing those bad bacteria. It's a simple bioreplacement technology. We take all the food with the good guys, so the bad guys can't thrive, and they just fade away into the background. It works very, very well. And of course, there's no opportunity for them to develop antimicrobial resistance. They can't become resistant to starvation. Okay, so it's a double win. So spraying onto surfaces, soft furnishings like pet bedding, drapes, carpets, and so on. But particularly pet bedding if the pet's got an allergy. Okay, because it's consuming the organic waste and keeping those bad bacteria away. Okay, and again about 3 days. The way that that process happens when you're cleaning a kitchen floor or cleaning a dog's coat by shampooing it, it's basically the same. Some of the products have different probiotics in them. Mostly we're talking about Bacillus subtilis. Other Some of the products will have more than maybe 4 or 5 different products, and some of them will have a stronger concentration depending on the application. But more on that in the individual product videos. Okay, so that's what I just said. In the spore foam, it's protected as well, so it's quite resistant, even to things like ethanol in hand sanitizer and so on, up until about 78 degrees, which should be fine. I'll just quick mention about enzymes. So enzymes, if you like, the simple way to look at it, enzymes are breaking down the uh, larger bits of organic waste, dirt, if you like, and then the probiotics can then eat up the smaller bits. Now the probiotics are giving off enzymes, so you can get an enzymatic cleaner, for example, and it's got enzymes in it, and it'll do that. But you can have a probiotic, which has enzymes not in the bottle, but when the probiotics start waking up and do their thing on the surface, then they start continually giving out enzymes. So you get an enzymatic and a probiotic action combination. Break down the soil and dirt and consume it. Okay, and to give you a little view, I've put this microbial, I've changed this word to cleansing rather than cleaning, because this again, it's the same when we use wound care or eye care or dental care or the floor cleaner or the hand soap and so on the left is the normal way people normally do. You've got a surface and you apply an anti-life chemical, and you're left then with some of the bad guys, and they reproduce, and then you've got to keep doing it, but all the time you're creating stronger, more resistant pathogens. The one on the right is how the probiotics work. We just put lots of the good guys in there and they outcompete the bad guys. Think of it, if you're weeding a garden and you pull up a weed, imagine putting lots of grass seed in its place so that weed can't come back, because what you actually want to have in your lawn is what's there and what's coming through. Okay, so it's a simple bio replacement. Replace bad with good. Okay, and the probiotics are good. So the Bacillus subtilis and so on, they're very safe to digest and so on. So those guys are eating some of those things that we don't want to have. Odors are caused most of the time by bad bacteria, and sometimes the smelly bacteria might not necessarily cause you ill health. Um, but we do want to stop those odors, because we want to stop people reaching for a chemical odor masking product, which is just putting more chemicals into the atmosphere, and some of those are linked with formaldehydes and so on, which can be a bit nasty. Or candles where they're giving off smoke particulates and so on. Okay, but some of those are, like say, they're bioallergens. And I like this one. This one's more for the cleaning. So where does the organic waste come from? It just comes from us and our animals and everything. Okay, and reading a report recently about biohazards in the air, and they could test for DNA in the air, and they were finding animals around the zoo that weren't in the zoo. These DNA from animals that were in the food given to the carnivores. So bits and pieces of humans and animals in the air, and that's just what we live in. So the probiotics will help consume all of those organic waste matters. So when we look at the environment that we're in, and we're going to talk specifically about chemicals and pharmaceuticals here for a moment, but when you look at the overall impact on our health and our pets' health, we're dealing with medicines, we're dealing with stresses, we're dealing with outdoor pollution, we're dealing with the food we consume, the diet, the quality of the water, and what we call the built environment. So in other words, when you're inside a building, something that has been built by humans, inside of that is called the built environment. On a train, in a restaurant, in your bedroom, wherever it happens to be. And then you're talking about chemicals that are coming from things that are difficult to eradicate, like the anti or flame retardancy chemicals, for example, in your sofa. But some of these are easy to replace. And that's where we come with the Provolan probiotic cleaning range, to remove the anti-life cleaning product from the environment and replace it with a pro-life cleaning product. Okay. And by the way, Provolan, it's nice just to know that, made up of three words: pro, v, lan. In French, that's something like for life balance. Okay. So take away the anti-life chemicals, so you're not breathing in chemicals that are designed to kill bacteria, or any products that are designed to kill bacteria. You're not breathing them into your body, which is quite heavily dependent upon, guess what? Bacteria. So various vitamins, digestive processes, and even some ability or assistance, if you like, in fighting illness comes from the bacteria in our gut. So let's not be breathing something in that's gonna kill that. Okay. So when it comes to those anti-life chemicals, there's lots of things out there you can read about, that they how they affect our lives, how they affect our health. It's right there, and most of them will say harmful to aquatic life, or with long-lasting effects, or they'll say do not release into the environment, and that can be quite difficult when it's a toilet cleaner or something. How do you not release it into the environment? Because it's dangerous to aquatic life. Okay, and we'll talk about antimicrobial resistance in future videos. So basically, using anti-life chemical cleaning or anti-life cleaning approach is known to create antimicrobial resistance. So two things that cause it: use or overuse or incorrect use of antibiotics, and sometimes we just absolutely need those things, and thank God we have them. But before they were invented, antibiotics, antimicrobial resistance had started from use of chemicals in the Industrial Revolution. Okay, so lots of information about that. When you look around, we just flag this up because, again, why are we looking at this? What's the point of what we're doing? Well, Environmental Working Group research talked about polluted pets in the States, in New York, I think New York State, and the amount of pollutants that we're finding in the dog's urine and cat's urine and blood as well was higher than humans, because these guys are right by the floor you've just cleaned with whatever the product. So, and this can be seen as vomiting, respiratory and eye issues, skin, big time with skin, because these guys are lying on that floor naked, and they're sometimes licking the floor, especially if they have a little gut issue themselves or reflux. They might be licking the floor or just licking their fluid off it. It can, some of these products will actually suppress our own immune system, which is doing a good job keeping bad things away, and we then reduce its ability to keep bad things away. And talking about links with cancer and so on. And sometimes the dog just doesn't feel well, and that can be linked to cleaning chemicals. And so again, they're coming in from different directions. They're ingesting the chemicals, they're breathing them in, and they're getting them directly onto their skin. Okay. And if you've got a cat, like I do, you know that anything you clean your house is going to end up inside that cat at some point, because he's just continually grooming themselves. Okay, so you can see that's so even when it's non-chemical, if it's antiseptic or it's anti whatever, it's killing the microbiome, and we just don't want to do that. And again, if we can reduce the odors by replacing the bad bacteria to give off scent, to give off bad smells, and by replacing them with probiotics that don't give off any scent, any smell, then that hopefully reduces our use of smell masking products, natural or otherwise, and that's got a benefit then for overall indoor air quality. Okay, so down the road when we talk about particular products, we'll talk about overall health effect, the environment I mentioned, harmful to aquatic life with long-lasting effects being one of the common things you'll read on information about cleaning products. We mentioned hygiene control just now. The fact that we're cruelty-free is a big thing for us. Okay, so Provolan have no animal testing because they don't need it, because they're not harsh chemical based, and neither are they owned by somebody who does chemical clean. There's no connection with animal testing. Okay, and I mentioned about the recontamination times, where you got under an hour with anti-life cleaner products, and you got about 3 days with probiotics. On the skins, look, when you're heavily, sometimes you got to wash your hands, right? But if you're completely stripping that microbiome all the time, you can get an imbalance. And they found out, particularly with hand sanitizer, leading to antimicrobial resistance. In other words, leading to stronger bad bugs on your hands. Okay, and that's the science. There's lots of it out there, so have a look at that. Whereas when you using a probiotic, we just have a balance. You know, there's going to be some staphylococcus on your skin. It's fine. It is there. You probably don't even know it. But a little bit is okay. Later on, we'll talk about microbiome as well, because some of these bad guys get into little nooks and crevices and so on, and they basically secrete a kind of a covering. It's a bit like pulling over a shield over them when they get in there, and it makes it quite difficult for them to be cleaned out, even with some of those heavy products. So what the probiotics do, they'll get in there and they'll digest that biofilm, and again they're into those little nooks and crevices and consuming that food in large numbers and just outcompeting those bad bacteria. So you're getting a good deep clean, especially important when you're talking about odor removal. Now, we talked about AMR, and this is a major problem for the World Health Organization has red flags on this for a long time, and it's at the moment it's destined to be a bigger killer than all cancers combined around the world. So everything we can do to stop the bad bugs becoming stronger, and everything we can do to reduce the amount of instances where antibiotics are actually needed, that leads up to reducing AMR. And studies have shown that switching over to probiotic cleaning reduces the amount of resistant pathogenic bacteria around. Now these guys are clever, and they know how to pass this information. So a little bit like sharing a program on a memory stick from one person's laptop to another person's laptop to another person's laptop. This is when these guys get resistant, they spread that information to their buddies, because they're a life form and they're trying to survive. That's their thing. Okay, I mentioned about the World Health Organization and their predictions, which aren't great. So we've covered everything I want to cover in this overview. There's a couple of case studies and pieces of information that I do like. I like this one particular because it talks about using probiotic cleaning in poultry farms that reduce then the requirement for antibiotics in the poultry, and reduce the mortality as well as increasing the health. Probiotics work equally against E. coli, for example, as they do against MRSA. It doesn't matter how resistant that pathogen is. Starvation is starvation, okay? And we have a wide range of products. Now, later on as well, I'll make these available. We have lots of references about anti-life cleansing approaches and the issues that they cause, okay? Lots of information out there. Google it for yourself, guys. There's just tons of it, okay? But I'd like to show these simply because I stopped collecting the information after a while, but it just shows you this crazy amount of issues out there, and sometimes it'll be from a professional body. Sometimes it'll be from somewhere like the pediatric side, where they're talking about the right of the child for good air quality at home, and cleaner products will feature in that as a problem. Okay, we mentioned hand sanitizer. So that's it for now. It's just a overview. This is designed to be video number 1. So some of you are going to go on and look at the pet care products in subsequent videos, and some will look at the clean products, and some will look at both. So well done, good for listening, and ping through any questions, and we'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.